layer right underneath all the guys that matter to this team is just so dreadful that it's just not, you can't take a hardline position of like, well, I think Robertson should be in, or I think Holmberg should be in, or I think it's just like, yeah, it's all the same. It's just really all the same. That's why people got so excited with Gurbankin for a bit, because they were like, oh, he's like moving around, he's doing something. Then you watch him for a few and you go like, oh, okay, he's just like right now where he's at in his development track. It's all the same, where you're just not getting anything out of these guys. And that's what I was kind of mentioning about why I give them a little bit of that forgiveness, that little bit of reprieve with the slow start stuff, is because I'm like, okay, they have to be marathon runners. Like they come out and they gas in the first, like they push all in there. They know that it's like there's nothing behind them that is going to be giving them a lift later in the hockey game. Okay, I want to move to a couple of other things before we let you go here. One is, I think that it's been a little underrated from a storyline somehow in this market, that the D pairings have been shuffled as much as they have been lately, and some of it's been like the McCabe injury, right? So they remove him from the lineup, and it really put him in flux, because the one thing that they really had was this lockdown pairing with McCabe and with Tanev. The thing is that when McCabe and Tanev are together, the other pairings, especially in the middle, they don't work as well. And I'm curious what you think the ideal groupings are right now.
I mean, with what they have, meaning the personnel that they have, and we'll just assume that
fully healthy.
Jani Hakanpää, well, minus Jani Hakanpää, I guess.
Yeah, I can't do the Jani Hakanpää as a part of it thing, because it's just, he's hurt again, and he came into. He lost a year off of his contract, didn't come to camp for a long time, is named to this Four Nations team, where you're like, okay, is he playing, or is he there because of an injury? I think it would be great if he surprises people, but at this point he is he's a lottery ticket that maybe factors in. He's not like a core fundamental piece anymore. I think that's pretty well established, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just want to make sure that we're not including him in it.
Yeah. I'm not doing like fantasy talk of like, and then if he was fully healthy, if he bounces back into what he's been in Dallas, you're like, yeah, for sure. Like, okay, I get it.
It would be great if he did, but in the time being.
But realistically, it's unlikely at this point, I would say.
Yeah, and so as much as we'll talk about, the need to add a forward and probably two, mm-hmm. To me, I think you almost have to look at the defense, say they might need to add a guy if unless he starts coming back in, January, February, plays in the Four Nations, somehow doesn't get hurt then, and starts rolling to the nth degree.
Yeah.
The reality of their defense is they have one really good pairing and then two pairings that are struggling right now. And as much as I love the McCabe-Tanev pairing, and I think everybody does, I don't.
It's impossible not to
argue otherwise.
Yeah. They're like analytically, they grade out to be the best defensive pairing in all of hockey so far this season. So it's like, you can't hate it.
The fit's great, lefty, righty. They're both excellent defensively. They both break the puck out. Mm-hmm. Their shifts are super clean. Everyone likes it. I'm well aware, myself included. But they're not good enough to keep them together. And the other side of that is those guys also don't play enough to justify it. It's not like you're saying McCabe and Tanev play 25 minutes a night.
Mm-hmm.
They play, like Tanev plays under 20 a night. And McCabe is averaging like 21. He's been a little bit over 20 since he's come back. Like, they don't play enough of the game where you can say, come hell or high water, I'm going to pair them up. And we'll work around it, but that's fine because they're just so dominant on the ice and they play so much of the game. They don't play enough of the game to me, mm-hmm. and that's fine. I don't think they're built like that. They're not. This isn't Cale Makar, and you're saying skate around freely, and the game comes so natural to you. Like, McCabe and Tanev play tough, physical, wear you down minutes at all times. Like, that's their game. That's what makes both of them such excellent players. So, to me, you have to, sadly, you have to split them, and then you have to just look for opportunities and high leverage situations where you would put them back together, to close a period, to take a D-zone draw against the top line, things of this nature, obviously the penalty kill. But I think over the flow of the game, and you saw it last night against Buffalo, right? Like, they started splitting them up. Tanev was taking shifts with Riley, he was taking shifts with Ekman-Larsson. We saw McCabe go back with old friend Simon Benoit. To me, I'd probably go back to what they started the season with, which was Riley with Tanev and Ekman Larson with McCabe. It moves McCabe back on the right, which is unfortunate, but he is really good there. And, the third pairing is a tough one, just given their options. I would still rate Timmins ahead of Myers. I don't know if I've seen Myers make a clean breakout pass on someone, like on another Leafs forwards tape yet.
No, Myers to me is very much like the quad A AHL guys that Dubas would run out there time and time again, and that they have in their forward group, where you're like, yeah, okay, he's defensive Pontus Holmberg kind of player, where it's like, okay, how many minutes did he play tonight? Well, didn't really notice too many things that he did, unless it's a mistake, and I haven't seen the clean break. Like, yeah, he's not a guy. To me, this is actually, I know I told you I'm not doing fantasy lineup stuff, but ultimately, you've got a pretty simple situation in front of you. You want the Tanev-McCabe pairing to be something that you do lean on for over 20 minutes come playoff time. I'm fine that they don't lean on it now, but even when you're talking about it, like, think about how many shots the Tanev blocks a game. Like, he just had a game where he didn't block a shot for the first time in his entire career, essentially, right? So all of a sudden you're adding even 3 minutes. How many more block shots is that for Chris Tanev? How do you feel as a Leaf fan when you see Chris Tanev block a shot and there's that moment where he's on the bench and you're wondering, right? You're wondering if that's the one that got him. They're too physical and they're too old for you to just like lean on them for an 82-game regular season and be pressing the pedal to the floor. But come playoff time, that has to be the mix. Also, OEL's got to be down on your third pairing, and then Morgan Rielly just needs a different righty shot. You saw that that's what they want to do, because they put Hakanpää like fresh in the lineup with Morgan Rielly, and they said, we really hope this works. And then Hakanpää moved exactly like you expected a guy with no knee cartilage who hadn't played an entire hockey season to move around, which was extremely poorly. To me, I think the ideal pairings ultimately are going to end up being that top pairing, Morgan Rielly with insert right shot D that is capable, which McKee and I have joked about a lot now, should just be Luke Schenn. Just go get Luke Schenn. It worked. He's not materially different than what he was when he was here. And then have a third pairing that is essentially OEL with Timmins, with potentially the ability to mix in a Hakanpää or a Myers if you feel like he's not going for a playoff matchup. And then unfortunately, Benoit's on the outside looking in, but that's fine because he's a good depth piece to have as your seventh or eighth guy.
Yeah, I would agree. I would like to see, as much as I don't like Ekman Larsson on the right, I would be curious about it in like 17 minutes a night with Benoit, just because I do like at times what Benoit brings physically. Like if they're playing Florida, I probably want Benoit in that series over Tanev, or sorry, not for Tanev, over Ekman Larsson, over Timmins.
Over Timmins.
I lose my mind.
I agree. It's just that when we've seen OEL play on his like offside,
it's been bad. It's been really
exactly
bad.
It's like that's when, like, you look at earlier portion of the season when people are like, look at this guy, he can break the puck out and he plays with some physicality, and wow, maybe the Leafs really hit on something here. And then you heard other people around hockey going, hey, this is going to wear off a little bit, and this is sort of what Florida went through last year, where they limited it, and then they got to the postseason. He was really effective. I like him as a player. I just don't like him being with Morgan Rielly playing heavy minutes where he's not playing his correctly slotted spot. It feels like he loses just about every piece of his game outside of the chippiness whenever he gets an opportunity around the net.
Yeah, and the reality, just for context for listeners, I mean, they're getting greased up with really soft offensive zone starts, like they're over 60%, and they're getting outscored at 5-on-5. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, they're setting them up for offensive success. And not only are they not producing offensively, but they are actively getting scored on.
Yeah,
in their own end.
Say what you will about Timothy
on
Liljegren. That's what they did for him, but he still was able to get the good numbers.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's something to be said for it, right? So it's hard to understate just how poor that pairing has been. And I mean, you look at Rielly as well, not to make it a dumping session on the defense. Like, Rielly is pacing to have one of the lowest point producing seasons of his career right now, right? Like, it just has not been overly productive. I don't think that that's Ekman Larsson's fault per se, but I don't think that pairing has gelled in any meaningful sort of way. And we really just haven't seen Rielly activated too much offensively in general, right? Like there's not much that sticks out in terms of Riley joining the play as like a fourth forward type of player, as like a backside drop pass option, or anything that's overly more than them cycling the puck to him on the point and him trying to put a shot through. Like there hasn't been a ton there. So yeah, like they got to find a way to activate him a little bit more. And to your point about right-handed defensemen, stay-at-home types, that's usually when he's been at his best at doing it and feeling the most comfortable to do it. So, like, there's a benefit there. And the way that they're playing is they need offense from the point. Like, that is a key piece of what they're trying to do. It's like, let's spend a bunch of time in the offensive zone and grind them down and put pucks to the point and get traffic in front. Like, Riley, to me, still probably is their best option in terms of a guy who can just get shots through traffic into the net. So they got to find a way to get him there. I agree. Like, you go into the playoffs, you want the McCabe-Tanev pairing to be a thing. I don't know if you can do it right now. So I'd all game. And so I'd probably move things around and just give yourself some different options in your back pocket come playoff time in general, just knowing you can go back to McCabe-Tanev whenever you want. But yeah, right now on the whole, it's tough. Like that's probably been the biggest thing for me in this overall run of play, just kind of watching it going, I think the forwards will be okay. I don't know about the power play in the playoffs, but I think the power play will kind of round itself out as the season goes along. We're starting to see that. I think their goaltending is full marks, but their defense and just like their ability to break pucks out clean and to stop cycles, McCabe and Tanev aren't on. They're having a really tough go.
You got to call him later today?
Pardon me?
You got to call him coming out later today?
Yes. Yeah, I got one. It might be a two-parter because it ended up being quite lengthy, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's coming.
There you go. So go read Anthony's work. It's always great. Hey, buddy, thanks as always for doing it, and we'll chat with soon.
Thanks for having me on, JD.
See you, buddy.
The Leafs center dilemma: who can strengthen the roster? If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan like me, you know the team's center depth has been a constant concern this season. With Auston Matthews set to return from a mysterious upper body injury next week, the excitement of having our star back is palpable. However, there are still serious issues to address in the center position to keep the team competitive and, of course, fuel our playoff dreams. David Kampf, a key piece in the center rotation, is sidelined with a lower body injury. As if that weren't enough, Kalle Jarnkrok is still recovering from surgery, leaving another gap in the lineup. Max Domi, expected to be a versatile asset, has been placed on injured reserve, further aggravating the situation after missing consecutive practices due to lingering pains. To sum it up, the Leafs are missing 4 functional centers, and the pressure to act is mounting. James Mirtle, a respected Leafs analyst and contributor to The Athletic, highlighted a series of potential trade targets to address this dilemma during his appearance on the J.D. Bunky's podcast. Among the names mentioned, 2 stood out: Nick Jugstad and, for the nostalgic fans, a possible reunion with Ryan O'Reilly. Jugstad seems to be Mirtle's favorite, and for good reason. The player, who signed a 2-year deal with the Utah Hockey Club last offseason, carries a manageable $2.1 million cap hit, which is essential for a team as salary cap-strapped as the Leafs. Additionally, standing at 6 feet 6 inches and weighing 205 pounds, he would bring not only physicality but also consistent offensive contributions. Jugstad is the most viable option for the Leafs right now, Mirtle stated on the podcast. And he's right. Experienced and versatile, Jugstad has played for several teams, including the Florida Panthers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Minnesota Wild, and Edmonton Oilers, and could quickly adapt to the Leafs' dynamic. With an affordable contract and a solid track record, he offers a practical solution without sacrificing too many future assets. However, it's impossible to ignore the possibility of a Ryan O'Reilly return. Yes, we know he chose the Nashville Predators last summer in search of a quieter environment, but the Leafs management still holds him in high regard. The 2019 Stanley Cup winning captain with the St. Louis Blues is precisely the type of player any contender would love to have on their roster. However, the cost of bringing him back would be steep, both in terms of trade assets and cap space adjustments, as Nashville or a third team would need to retain part of his salary. I don't think the O'Reilly scenario is entirely out of reach, Mirtle said, showing that there's optimism within the organization. However, there are doubts about how much it's worth investing in a 33-year-old player, even with his impeccable credentials. Meanwhile, cheaper internal options like Steven Lorentz, Connor Dewar, Pontus Holmberg, and Fraser Minton have been mentioned. But let's be honest, these names might serve as short-term stopgaps, but they're far from offering the stability and impact the team needs. The pressure is all on GM Brad Treliving. He knows that despite the Leafs' solid performance so far, the center position is crucial to sustaining any championship aspirations. With the trade deadline approaching, Treliving has likely intensified his efforts to finalize a deal. And we, the fans, are eagerly awaiting good news. For now, all we can do is trust that the team can weather this tough phase and hope a solution, whether it's Bjugstad, O'Reilly, or another name, arrives before things spiral out of control. After all, as we all know, the Leafs don't have the luxury of wasting another season with a promising but incomplete roster. The time to act is now. The Leafs center dilemma, expanding on the potential solutions. The Toronto Maple Leafs, amidst another promising yet tumultuous season, face one of their most pressing challenges, addressing a depleted center lineup that threatens to derail their momentum. While the return of Auston Matthews is a beacon of hope, the broader picture remains dire, requiring urgent action from the front office. With Kampf, Jarnkrok, and Domi sidelined, the team's depth has been stretched thin. The immediate impact is clear on both ends of the ice. Defensively, the Leafs are struggling to suppress opposing top lines without reliable two-way centers. Offensively, puck distribution and power play setups have been less dynamic, as the makeshift lineups lack the same chemistry. This imbalance underscores the necessity for reinforcements. Nick Bjugstad, as highlighted by James Myrtle, presents the most realistic trade option. His affordable contract and towering physical presence align perfectly with the Leafs' needs. Beyond his imposing stature, Bjugstad brings versatility. He can play both center and wing, a flexibility that would allow head coach Sheldon Keefe to adjust the lineup dynamically. However, acquiring Bjugstad isn't without complications. The Utah Hockey Club, formerly the Arizona Coyotes, is currently rebuilding but may still demand a premium return for their experienced forward. The Leafs will likely need to part with a mid-tier prospect or draft pick to make the deal work. With their prospect pool already thin, Treliving faces a tough decision. Another name that excites fans and analysts alike is Ryan O'Reilly. The former Conn Smythe winner and Stanley Cup champion has a proven track record of elevating teams in high-stakes situations. His leadership during his brief stint with Toronto last season left a lasting impression. Yet, the Predators have little incentive to move him unless the offer is overwhelming. Should the Leafs pursue O'Reilly, it would almost certainly require a multi-asset package. A first-round pick and a promising young player like Nick Robertson might need to be part of the conversation. Additionally, Nashville would have to retain salary, a process that often involves a third-party team to facilitate. The logistics are challenging but not insurmountable. Internal options like Pontus Holmberg and Fraser Minton offer short-term relief but lack the experience needed for a deep playoff run. Holmberg has shown flashes of potential, but his limited NHL exposure raises questions about his readiness for a consistent role. Minton, while promising, is still developing and would be better served continuing his growth in the minors. A wild-card option could be exploring European leagues or waiver claims to unearth an overlooked talent. Teams like the Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche have found gems in unconventional ways, and the Leafs scouting department may need to cast a wider net to uncover an affordable, immediate solution. Another factor complicating the Leafs' decisions is the looming salary cap crunch. With Matthews' extension set to kick in soon, Toronto must be mindful of every financial commitment. Adding a high-priced center now could limit flexibility during the off-season, forcing Treliving to juggle short-term needs against long-term sustainability. Trade timing will also play a pivotal role. Acting quickly could stabilize the team and prevent further slip-ups in the standings, but it may come at the cost of negotiating leverage. Alternatively, waiting closer to the deadline could yield better deals as selling teams grow more desperate. The risk, however, is enduring several more weeks of uncertainty. Sheldon Keefe's role in navigating this storm can't be overstated. His ability to extract maximum effort from an injury-riddled lineup will be crucial. Keefe has already experimented with unconventional line combinations, but the lack of true centers limits his tactical options. A new acquisition would provide the stability he needs to implement a more structured game plan. The Leafs locker room has remained resilient through adversity, with veterans like John Tavares and Morgan Rielly stepping up as vocal leaders. However, even their efforts may not be enough to overcome the absence of key personnel. Reinforcements are not just a luxury, they're a necessity. For fans, the anxiety is palpable. After years of playoff heartbreak, this season feels like another chapter in the saga of unmet expectations. Yet, there's cautious optimism. The team has shown glimpses of brilliance, and the addition of a solid center could be the missing piece that transforms them from contenders to genuine threats. As the trade rumors swirl, one thing is certain: the next few weeks will be critical in shaping the Leafs season. Whether it's Bjugstad, O'Reilly, or an unexpected name, the decision made by Brad Treliving and his staff could define not just this campaign, but the team's trajectory for years to come. For now, we wait, hopeful that the Leafs will seize the moment and finally deliver on their immense potential. Will the Leafs make their move? As the speculation intensifies, the Leafs fan base is holding its collective breath, waiting for signs of a breakthrough.